I think the living room has been always the big battleground for premium content eyeballs and equally for advertiser intent. What we're seeing now, which is different, is that with connected TV penetration becoming what it is, you're seeing a democratization of the living room. And that is frankly what YouTube stands for the most. Right? And therefore, from a strategy perspective, I think if we take the next 5 years, we are very bullish about where this penetration and the possibilities will take us. So for example, like in India, we're adding about 10 million connected TVs every year.
Right.
So on the back of that, imagine an average household size of about 4. You're seeing tremendous new users coming onto the screen. So what does it really mean, and what is our strategy to your question? We're looking at it almost as a two-pronged approach. So on one hand, we really think bringing alive, like you said, a multi-format, whether it's short form, long form. We've been talking about microdramas, we've been talking about AI, and yet at the same time, the power of long form is not to be forgotten. So we are investing a lot in stitching together viewer journeys that combine this multi-format approach and a multi-device approach.
Is YouTube now positioning itself already India's largest creator-led commerce platform? And how big can that business become over the future?
Well, absolutely. You know, first of all, advertising will remain a cornerstone of our strategy to help monetize content for our creators and bring them income. At the same time, we do definitely see commerce as both a massive and a highly strategic new frontier. Let me take some India numbers first, right? So about 200 million logged in users actively searched for shopping content last year. So that is the massive level of inherent need that users have. And they've always used YouTube to discover new products, test their hypotheses, especially the more high engagement and high value purchases. And then to get inspiration, and I definitely have a soft spot for commerce. I spent the last decade in the e-commerce industry. So if you see that massive user need, you then combine it with the fact that the creator content is not a heavy sales burden, but is integrated into their community with authenticity. And all we are doing is powering it with now deep integration with merchants. So we are not trying to either harm the merchants by taking that value pie away from them. And we are therefore connecting this user, the already thriving creator content, by bringing in direct product purchase ability with deep links into the merchants, making it a completely seamless flywheel.
Now, you framed AI across 3 fronts, productivity, language, and I guess quality, right? Now, in a structurally low CPM market like India, do you think AI is the big path now to making world-class content creation economically viable, or does it have the opposite effect, or do both, by flooding the platform and compressing what creators can actually earn?
Given that it is a low CPM market, the cost of production is indeed a barrier that a lot of creators feel. And I think if we forget about quality and just simply look at the drudgery of some of the tasks that they do, all the way from actually producing the content, but then also from a distribution perspective, you have to test thumbnails, you have to figure out your marketing messaging right. AI can take a lot of that burden away without even touching the core of creativity. On the flip side of it, volume doesn't mean success. So exactly like you said, fully subscribe to that view that more content and more AI doesn't necessarily mean either success or more monetization. Frankly, the more we have looked deeper into the data, what drives good viewership is still the quality of the content. Doesn't matter whether it was AI supported, fully AI generated, or fully human generated. So quality will always triumph, and that will determine the monetization ability. AI will end up hopefully becoming only a route to enabling it in different ways.
As audiences look for premium content on the CTV, on the big screen, how is YouTube working with the legacy media companies, the content creators, the TV networks to help them scale?
I think, like you said, we've always seen ourselves as a, almost indispensable but collaborative partners. And what the CTV screen and the opportunity does is allow us to help expand the pie for everyone in more innovative ways, right? The most fundamental one, which has always been used, is the marketing flywheel that YouTube provides. We want to add to it by adding distribution opportunities. So for example, in US, with YouTube TV and our primetime channel offerings, we are working with media studios to enable exactly that. Closer home in India, we are looking at both the film studios as well as the traditional broadcasters to again bring their offerings alive. One exciting example that we collaborated with was with Amir Khan Productions to try and see how we could shift the windowing strategy in the market to create a new digital pay-per-view window, which has been very much a non-existent phenomena for India. And then what we're also seeing is a lot of traditional players are struggling. They're being forced into this digital era, but are struggling with content and format innovation. And a good example of how we recently collaborated was with the Screen Awards, which was a very popular property about 5 years back, and then the Indian Express Group wanted to bring it back. And we helped them re-innovate it for a completely digital-first audience while staying true to what they stood for, which was authentic journalism, but combined it with authenticity that only creators can lend in their very unique way.
Live sports is an interesting one because, arguably that's very important to YouTube's future on the big screen. And how do you see YouTube, I don't want to say winning, but really playing in sports in a market like India? Is it creator-led coverage, emerging in new sports, fandom, highlights, or just let's go to meaningful rights? How are you looking at it?
In several ways, it's going to, over time, be all of the above, right? And the word I often use is, and I think that is where YouTube's strategy is going to be different, is that we see ourselves as the infinite stadium.
Right.
Again, let me bring it alive, right? Last year, just taking cricket, given it's so loved and almost a religion in India, content related to cricket got 200 billion views on YouTube India last year. Right? And like I said, nearly 90% of fans, when they're consuming the live experience, are often on their second screens. So any experience that we create for sports, one, again, has to be multi-format and multi-screen. Second, we want to be genuine partners for the leagues and the rights holders in creating that mega fandom. And not just in one country, because sports often tend to be dominated with either a cluster of countries, right? Sanjog brought it alive earlier today. And in fact, we are working with him and his team to, again, try some fantastic experiments for the Women's World Cup, which is happening currently in the UK. And the kind of things we're trying is, a combination of live highlights. But what gets me most excited is again, the power of creators coming in. I think that's the future of sports, and we want to build it and grow it in terms of deep fandom for as many sports as we can.